In this video, I'm gonna talk about my street photography gear. I am in Amsterdam, so stick around to see what kind of street photography I will do here in Amsterdam. Hi there, Peter Forsgård, Olympus visionary and professional photographer from Finland. And before we get into the street photography in the streets of Amsterdam, please consider to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you get notified when there is a new video online. My channel is all about you getting to be a better photographer, and I post 2 videos a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays. But let's go downtown Amsterdam. Alright, I'm waiting for my Uber ride to arrive, and it's about a 20 to 25 minute ride downtown Amsterdam. This is a hotel pretty close to the airport. The hotels downtown were really expensive, and then beside that there is a lot of conferences, so there wasn't much room in those, or vacancy on those hotels. So I have this small little hotel pretty close to the airport. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, here we are in the downtown area of Amsterdam, and I've been walking around and taking some images, but first, before we get into the gear, I want to tell you a bit about what I feel and what I see what street photography actually is. But let's look at some images that I took before I start talking about my philosophy of street photography. First, when we start talking about street photography, we have to take it different from the travel photography or the memories that you take on your travels. Those are usually for your own use and for your own memories to look after the trip, and maybe a few years later to show them to somebody that, okay, this is what the place looks like, and you go back to your images and feel the things that you felt on your trip. But then when we're talking about street photography, that's a bit of a different thing. Those images can be, okay, of course it can be a what I would say a kind of like a representation of a city. You make street photography in a certain place. You walk around and you observe the things. That's, I think, is the most important thing, is about observing the surroundings and what it looks. What's the feel? How do you feel about the city? What's your feelings about the things that you see? And of course, it doesn't mean that you are not allowed to take some travel photography because of the nice scenery, and that's what I've been doing here in Amsterdam also. And let's look at a few of my images of the canals. Hey, I'm walking around and observing things, and this is a really cool looking city, and walking by a canal, and you can see, I don't know if you can see those houseboats on the side, and then on this side there is a nice brick building, fairly new, I guess. And yeah, it's an interesting city with the canals. I wonder how they're gonna cope with when the climate change will make the ocean's water level raise. When you look around here, you can see that a couple of meters, if the water gets higher, these people are in trouble. But let's continue with the images. And about the images, it's really hard actually, because I'm doing this in one day. And making good images in a couple of hours, it is really hard. But I hope you like the images that I made. But let's put the images on. And in street photography there are a lot of different approaches. You could make images of the classical way of street photography, like the big masters like Henri Cartier-Bresson used to do. Okay, and this always happens when you start recording. There's going to be somebody drilling, or there's going to be a helicopter. Yeah, now there is a helicopter up there. Sorry if that distracts the noise, but it's quite annoying. It always happens to me when I start vlogging on in somewhere. But let's get back into the street photography. Okay, you could do what else you could do? You could do cityscapes, which of course are pretty close to landscape photography. But I consider that street photography also. It doesn't mean that there has to be a street in it, but that's something that I think is street photography. And then of course the classical way, if we go back to that, that's really hard to do. Like I have a couple of hours of doing this video and making the images. You cannot succeed. It's pure luck. Of course, if you experienced and you really observe what you're looking around and making those images. And as I said, now there's a big truck driving in front of me behind the camera, so the microphone will pick up that noise. Sorry about that again. But the classical way, it's really hard to find in a couple of hours really great classical street photography images. But of course you need to try and try to do that, and that's always when you're traveling. You have this time strain, the what do you call the timetable. You have certain amount of time to do that. Of course, if you're only doing travel and photography is the only thing that you do, then of course it's totally different. But let's continue, and I will go through the gear that I use. I've said many times before that I like to travel light, so on this trip the only camera that I took is the EM5 Mark II with the 17mm f1.8, and that's because, as I said, I want to carry a very light bag so that I can concentrate on the photography and not by carrying all that stuff. And the 17mm f1.8 lens, because it's quite small, so this is very handy combo to make street photography images. And 17mm, which equals around 35mm, is the classical street photography lens, which was used by the big names back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And that's why I took this combo. And to be honest, the EM5 Mark II camera is one of my favorite Olympus cameras because it's quite small, and then what I've added to it is a what do you call this, a grip, which is the, I have to check this out, it's the HLD 8J, or G actually, HG is the handle, and it makes a bit of a better grip. And then I have the Peak Design cuff or whatever you call this thing here, and which I think this is really easy because it comes off really easily, and then it's easy to put back on. I don't know if you saw it, but it's easy to put back on, and that's why this is my favorite street photography gear right now. I'm not really happy with the images that I took because it's always very hard for me to start quickly making images. I need some time to look around and think about things and take lots of images, and then it starts to pick up. And now that I'm almost done with the video, I think I'm starting to pick up the pace of photography here in Amsterdam. As I said, it's a beautiful city, and I hope you've enjoyed the images, and thanks for watching, and bye for now.